If you like what you're about to hear, please consider leaving a review, or liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing on YouTube. I don't have a Patreon or enable ads for this, so if you really like Oldex, please do contact Games Workshop on social media or via email and tell them you want me to narrate their audiobooks for realsies. Oldex, Codex Chaos Space Marines 4th edition, pages 46 to 49, Abaddon the Despoiler, Khârn the Betrayer, and Let the Blood Flow. Written by Gav Thorpe and Alessio Cavatore, narrated by R.J. Bailey, with great thanks to Alistair for donating this copy of Codex Chaos Space Marines. Abaddon the Despoiler, War Master of Chaos. Abaddon the Despoiler, Abaddon the Arch-Fiend, an inhuman monster whose name has become a tenfold curse for the 10,000 years of terror he has heaped upon the galaxy he once helped to conquer in the name of the Emperor. During the last crusade, Abaddon rose to the position of captain of the first company of the Lunar Wolves Legion. As the Legion battled across 100 worlds, he became famed for his tactical skill and physical prowess, and he worshipped Horus as a son loves a father. It is rumored that Abaddon may have been a clone son of Horus himself, a direct creation of the Primarch's gene seed. None were prouder than Abaddon when the Legion was renamed the Sons of Horus after the Ullanor Crusade. When the heresy came, it was clear that Abaddon's loyalty lay with his Primarch and not the Emperor. He led the Terminator squads of the Sons of Horus in bloody campaigns across Isstvan, Yarant, and in the siege of the Imperial Palace. Abaddon fought Terminators of the Imperial Fists aboard Horus's battle barge, and his anguish at Horus's death drove him deeper into madness and hatred than any mortal should ever sink. Before the Sons of Horus retreated to the Eye of Terror, it was Abaddon who led a sudden and savage counterattack that reclaimed the fallen War Master's body. With their prize in hand, the Sons of Horus then fled before the wrath of the Emperor's armies. Abaddon passed from mortal space into legend. When Abaddon returned, it was at the head of a diabolic horde that ravaged entire star systems around the Eye of Terror before the Imperium could muster the strength of arms to halt it. His Chaos Space Marines, now renamed the Black Legion, were the spear thrust of the attack, destroying everything in their path. During the First Black Crusade, Abaddon made many bloody pacts with the infernal powers. In the crypts below the Tower of Silence on Uralan, Abaddon received a demon sword of prodigious power. With the howling blade in his fist, Abaddon became nigh on unstoppable. Whole cities were burned in sacrifice to the ever-hungry demons of chaos, and Abaddon was lavishly rewarded. Since then, Abaddon has dreamed of forging an empire of chaos, built upon the blazing ruins of the Imperium. Each world, each city destroyed, is a step closer to wiping the canvas clean, so that Abaddon can make his mark upon the galaxy and humanity. Abaddon has led 12 more Black Crusades against the Imperium since his first horrific onslaught. Each attack has sent the Imperium reeling and ravaged worlds close to the Eye of Terror. With every assault Abaddon leads, the strength of his Black Legion grows. In the minds of the Chaos Space Marines, success is a sign of the Chaos God's favor, and Abaddon is now seen by many as the natural successor to Horus. Only the demon Primarchs wield as much power as the War Master of the Black Legion. The High Lords of Terror dread the day that Abaddon truly unites all of the traitor legions and returns to Earth to play out the last acts of treachery begun by Horus 10,000 years ago. Their fear is not without just cause. In Abaddon's latest attack, the fortress world of Cadia was overrun by Abaddon's Black Legion and their allied hordes. Bitter fighting still rages on the surface of Cadia and a dozen surrounding worlds for possession of the Cadian Gate, the only stable path through the warp from the Eye of Terror. Should Abaddon's armies triumph, the floodgates will be open, and a never-ending tide of chaos will pour out of the Eye of Terror to despoil the Imperium, and perhaps, once again, strike at the most prized of worlds. Terror. Khârn the Betrayer. Khârn has dedicated his millennia-long existence to unleashing bloody carnage upon anyone and anything within reach. He is drawn by the scent of war as a hungering hound is drawn by fresh meat, and it has become impossible to tally his slaying. Even during the Great Crusade, when he fought in the vanguard of the World Eaters' Legion's assault companies, Khârn was known to be a brilliant yet unstable warrior. When the heresy came, Khârn gladly led his warriors against his brother Space Marines, most notoriously in the Isstvan drop site massacres. During the siege of the Imperial Palace, Khârn was at the forefront of the assault. When Horus was defeated, Khârn already lay horribly mangled upon a mound of corpses. His fellow world-eaters carried away his lifeless remains and fought their way back to their ships. Once aboard, they discovered that by some dark miracle, Khârn still lived. Whether Khârn had breathed life back into his berserker champion, or Khârn's own relentless spirit simply refused to leave, it is impossible to say. Khârn is called the Betrayer because of an incident on the demon world of Scalathrax. Fighting against the Emperor's children, the World Eaters needed just one more victory over Fulgrim's warriors, and the planet would be claimed in Khârn's name. The battle had to be won before Scalathrax's long, frozen night drew in, and killed victor and vanquished alike. Yet the World Eaters could gain no ground against their foes, and were hurled back time after time by devastating sonic weapons. Khârn cursed his fellow warriors for abandoning the attack, and, seizing a flamer, he torched the nearest buildings in a gesture of contempt. He cut down those that tried to stop him, and marched into the gloom, the serpent's tongue of his flamer licking out again and again to consume the city. Through the mayhem strode Khârn, slaughtering all that he found, friend or foe alike. Anarchy engulfed the World Eaters as they fought each other, and the Legion was irretrievably split into hundreds of warbands. Since that bloody day, Khârn has been Khârn's most ardent warrior, who lives to slay in the name of the Lord of Skulls. Let the blood flow.
"Artillery on the ridge, brother slaughterer!"
Horkal barked through the vox grill of his power armor. As if to punctuate his point, another shell exploded atop the roof of the half-ruined cathedral, showering dust and masonry down onto the assembled World-Eaters.
"Spotting teams in the chancellery, 70 meters northeast,"
added Theron as he peered out of the shattered stained-glass window to the left of the barred doors. Flecks of blue and white paint from the cracking mural over their heads dusted the berserkers' red power armor. Brother Slaughterer Mandrathrax and his followers had been pinned down in the cathedral for almost half an hour. There were only 5 of them left now, after an ill-judged attempt to break out had seen 14 of his warband cut down by heavy weapons fire a few minutes earlier. He weighed up his options.
"When the next shell hits, we charge while they reload,"
Mandrathrax declared.
"Keep together, take out the spotters and send their souls to Khârn. Then we'll wreak our revenge on these petty guardsmen."
There were grunts and shouts of approval from the berserkers. They waited, crowding behind the splintered doors. Mandrathrax slid out the heavy iron bar and tossed it to one side.
"Wait,"
he cautioned, as he felt his bloodthirsty warriors pressing in behind him, eager to be free of the disquieting confines of the holy imperial building. They waited impatiently for what seemed like an age, and with a glance at the chronometer in his helmet display, Mandrathrax saw that 5 minutes had passed since the last shell had been fired.
"Out of ammunition?"
suggested Khârn, as he also realized how long they had been waiting.
"Kill them all!"
roared Mandrathrax, shouldering open the door and launching himself forward. He raised his bolt pistol, expecting an instant salvo of las fire to engulf him. But there was nothing. The square outside the cathedral was deserted, except for piles of bodies and pools of blood. Thick smoke billowed from the ridge to the north, where the artillery had been.
"Impressive,"
muttered Thyron, as the others spread out, surveying the carnage.
"Blood for the blood god!"
The thunderous shout rang through the minds of the berserkers as much as it resounded in the auto-sensors of their armored suits. Mandrathrax turned and saw an unmistakable red-armored figure pounding around the corner of the cathedral towards them. Blood-stained chains hung from his arms, and he wielded a massive chain axe in one hand, its teeth glittering brightly, and a smoking plasma pistol in the other.
"Khârn protect us,"
whispered Khârn.
"Khârn!"
yelled Mandrathrax, but it was too late. The chain axe swept through the helmet of Khârn first, sending half of his head spinning away in a crimson spray. With a blinding blast, Khârn fired his pistol, its incandescent shot smashing a hole through Thyron's chest and hurling him backwards onto the cathedral steps. With a leap over Khârn's sprawling corpse, Khârn swayed past Jorath's chainsword and lopped off his arm with a casual backsweep of Gorechild. Following through with the momentum of the blow, Khârn swung around and smashed the butt of his pistol into Jorath's face, splintering his helmet and cracking back his head. A downward cleaving blow chopped the berserker in half. Bolts from Khârn's pistol sparked from the betrayer's armor, leaving small craters in the blood-red ceramite. Khârn dropped his overheated pistol and grabbed one of Jorath's legs, flinging the severed lower half of the berserker's body at Khârn. Before Khârn could pick himself up, Khârn was on him with an underarm sweep of his chain axe, Gorechild slamming up through Khârn's groin armor and splitting him to the chest. With a fountain of viscera that splattered his armor, Khârn ripped his chain axe free and turned on Mandrathrax. The brother slaughterer knew he was doomed. He let his arms drop to his sides and stretched his head backwards to expose his neck to Khârn.
"Accept this humble offering, Lord of Skulls,"
said Mandrathrax, a moment before the chain axe sliced through his neck in one swinging blow and sent his head clattering down the steps. Khârn stooped to pick up his pistol and then headed off across the plaza in search of new sacrifices to Khârn, roaring his praise.
"Skulls for the Skull Throne!"
You have been listening to Oldex, Codex Chaos Space Marines, 4th edition, pages 46 to 49, Abaddon the Despoiler, Khârn the Betrayer, and Let the Blood Flow. Written by Thorpe and Alessio Cavatore. narrated by R.J. Bailey. With great thanks to Alistair for donating this copy of Codex Chaos Space Marines. Thank you to Gav Thorpe and Alessio Cavatore for writing the fiction I grew up with. If you've enjoyed this, please leave a review where you found it, or like, share, and subscribe on YouTube, depending on how you're listening. I don't have a Patreon or enable ads for this, so if you really like Oldex, please do contact Games Workshop on social media or via email and tell them you want me to narrate their audiobooks for realsies. This production, like all of Oldex, is entirely unofficial and uncommercial. From an out-of-print publication, is a derivative work with all copyrights owned by Games Workshop, and is a celebration of the hobby and lore I grew up with. If you have suggestions for other old Codex fiction for me to narrate on this podcast, you can comment, contact me on Twitter at rjbailey, or email robertjbailey@gmail.com. Links are in the show description.